cannot give you the formula for success, but I can give you the formula for failure, which is try to please everybody. Herbert Swope. Welcome to the Guyana Dialogue. I'm your hostess, Shamisa Ali. Good evening to everyone joining us on Facebook and YouTube. Hoping this December is filled with joy and cheer for you and your loved ones. Tonight, our topic is government salary increases and adjustments plus public service modernization. The Guyana Dialogue is being sponsored by a coordinating council of Guyanese based in the US, UK, Canada, Guyana, and the Caribbean. Funding support is by well-known philanthropist Dave Narine from Dave West Indian Imports. Please welcome my moderator for tonight, Dr. Tara Singh.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Our panelist for tonight is Mahendra Hariraj. And originally from the Essequibo Coast, she was born at Suddy, where she resided for 13 years and attended the Anna Regina Primary School. She then entered the University of Guyana in 1999 as an English major and subsequently went to pursue law from 2002 to 2005 at the University of Guyana, where she obtained a Bachelor of Law degree. She then advanced to the U Wooding Law School, where she obtained her certificate to practice law. She was admitted to the legal bar in October of 2007, and it was in private practice from 2007 to 2020. She was sworn in as a member of Parliament and a Minister of Public Service on the 5th of August 2020. As a member of Parliament, she sits on the Parliamentary Management Committee and the Constitutional Reform Committee. Please welcome Minister of Public Service, the Honorable Savitri Sonia Parag.
Good evening, Shamisa. Good evening, Dr. Singh. And to our panelists and our viewers, our most valued viewers here in Guyana, as well as the diaspora, very good evening to all of you.
Pleasure and good evening. It's a pleasure to have you here this evening, Dr. Tara.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much, Minister. I know you're very busy, and we are grateful that you are able to spend a few moments with us. But the topics that you're going to be discussing is very important for the people in the diaspora as well as in Guyana. Our second panelist supposed to be Mr. Kublal, but he's down with the weather. He's outside of the studio waiting, but he can't be in here because of his situation. And the other panelist is Mr. Mahendra Hariraj, who has just joined us. Welcome. And I will just start off with a question that Mr. Kublal, who's outside, asked me to ask you. I decided to ask you first, lest I forget about it. He says he wants to know a very simple question: what qualification people need to join the public service?
Well, there are different levels of positions in the public service, and so you have positions that will not require a degree or a master's. So those are the lower end level of the public service, and you can enter the public service with your CXC or CSEC as we have it here. And you also have those positions that require a degree or a degree and a master's. So there are different levels, but the entry level, you can come in with your CSEC qualifications.
Yeah, I think he was interested in the entry level. I should have indicated that. Thank you. Now, the topical thing for the past week or two have been salary increase and adjustments. It was announced that you all adjusted salary for the police, the fire service, but it's not clear whether the prison service or the army will get these adjustments in January. If you can throw some light on that.
So, yes, about 2 weeks ago, His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, our president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, he made an announcement, and a very important and significant announcement of salary increases, because we know at the end of the year, public servants as well as civil servants look forward to an increase. And so our government does not intend at any point in time to leave out any category of persons in our country. So salary increases of an 8% increase across the board for both public service and also civil servants was given. And also there was an adjustment of scales in the Guyana Defense Force, the police force. And you saw the scales being risen depending upon the years of experience. And going back to your question of the prison service as well as the army, yes, His Excellency is not quite finished with the adjustment, and putting together all of this takes a little bit of time, and it takes quite a bit of work in terms of looking at all of the positions, the skills, the persons in those positions, and the years of experience, etc. So the prison service and the army, I'm certain, will be considered for adjustment of skills, as well as the health sector, different positions in the health sector.
The reason why I asked that a few people asked me if the army is has been left out and the prison service. So I said I'll have a good opportunity to ask you at this program today.
Well,
Thank
they're
you.
not left out because, first of all, they're benefiting from the 8% increase. And then with the adjustment of the scales, His Excellency would have been looking at the disciplinary forces. And so he started with the police force, and we're going to move on from there.
Okay, thank you. Now let's go back to the public service prop. You have an idea the number of I see like you make a distinction between the public servants and government workers. Public servants are normally related to the government ministries employees who work there, right?
So
And
you
government
have
workers can be other people who are not on the fixed establishment, how it works.
So the public service includes both the fixed establishment and contract workers. And so you have different agencies that will come, ministries and agencies that will come under the umbrella of the traditional public service, which would have the inventory positions. And then you have the civil service and you have agencies outside of that, but they will all make up the public sector. So what we have is approximately about 41,000 or more public servants, and that's public and civil servants in the public sector. And we have just about 3,000 and something contract workers, and just about 15,000 and something the traditional public servants post and the fixed establishment.
15,000 traditional civil servants.
Yes, but contract also comes under the public service, so that would make it almost 19,000 to 20,000.
19, you said?
Yes.
19,000. And 3,000 are contract workers.
It's a bit more than that, but that is the approximate. That's
Okay.
not the it's 3,000 plus.
Okay, but the total workforce in the government service is 41,000.
It's exceeding 41,000. So that is coming off of government,
Okay.
yes, payroll and so
So
on.
this 41,000 will include the 19,000.
Correct.
Okay. There has been some criticism about the number of contract workers, and I don't know if you care to comment on that. The reason for the hiring of this amount of contract workers, because the unions are complaining that they are outside their purview, and it weakens their bargaining power, etc. You have any comments to make on that?
Well, first of all, contract workers, I would ask you to elaborate a bit more on the criticisms. You
Yeah,
said there are some criticisms on the contract workers being employed.
well, they were saying that they're a more advantageous position and they're there to replace established public servants, etc. And they get better terms and conditions, they get gratuity, etc. So,
Well, so I'll answer at this point. The public service rules caters for both the fixed establishment, persons on the fixed establishment or the pensionable establishment, as well as contract. So the option is there to employ either by contract or by fixed establishment. And you have persons who, between 2015 and 2020, there was some sort of instructions to have persons, public servants, be transitioned to the fixed establishment. And a lot of those persons did not want to be there. A lot of persons do enjoy the contract or the nature of a contract, given that they would like to have their gratuity every 6 months, and they can use that money to save or to invest in something at that very moment. While other persons may want to be in a fixed establishment and have a pension when they retire. But the public service rules and my interpretation, I've read that rule over and over. I've been using it as my Bible as I came into the public service, because obviously that is what I use to guide me in terms of recruitment, in terms of employment conditions, etc. And it gives the option of either contract or pensionable. So I think that a public servant at that point, when they're coming in, they can choose, and the Ministry of Public Service will hire on contract, or the PSC on a pensionable fixed establishment.
So a person who's a political advisor to the president, can that person be put on the fixed establishment?
No, that position comes as that's not an inventory position under the public service. So the office of the president will deal with that,
So you're
and
saying,
more than likely on a contract term.
okay, okay. Let me pass you over now to Mahendra to
Sure.
seek any clarification, or you have any questions for the minister.
Well, definitely quickly. And good evening, Minister
Good evening.
Sonia. I think Dr. Tara is asking a very packed question, and I think the question is really to understand the distinction between contract employees and public servant employees, and you elaborate a little, but more so, I had an opportunity to peruse the newspapers and the ministry's website, and one of the things I feel is interesting is the scholarship programs that is available, and also the investment in the information technology transformation. How is it that your ministry is utilizing these programs to facilitate the public persons in the public domain to enhance their skill set for these jobs? And as Dr. Tar is asking a very interesting question, how is it that we mobilize people in the public service sector away from this contract sort of basis that may have better perks or prerequisites?
So, like I said, the public service rules, let me just answer the question with a distinction of the contract as well as against the pensionable or fixed establishment. So, an employee can be either, because the public service rules gives you that option. Now, the Ministry of Public Service is responsible and can only employ by contract, but will the Public Service Commission, which is an autonomous body, deals with the fixed establishment. Now, you will have persons who would want a security maybe, or think that they get a better security in terms of a pension after retirement and so on, and whatever the package is with the fixed establishment, they feel more secure with that, and so they will opt to do that. The Public Service Ministry will not stop that recommendation, and we can only recommend, but the PSC will have to fill the post. And with a contract, you can do a person benefits from a contract as well, depending on your terms of your contract, and you will get your gratuity. And you will be surprised to know that a lot of persons would rather be on contract. But if you are to check the statistics, and the statistics would tell you that the number of pensionable employees that we have far outweigh the contract employees. So it's really a choice that you have, and I think that both uh, forms, you would be able to benefit from either, but it depends on what you believe is your form of security. So that's one. And in terms of the scholarship programs and the training, so the Ministry of Public Service has a training division that is geared towards employees or upskilling of employees in different fields in different areas. So you will have supervisors that are being trained to do better in their jobs or to have a better skill set. And you have different programs such as leadership, such as communication. We are introducing ethics that will be running continuously throughout the year from January of 2023, and that's geared towards achieving what we want to achieve according to our manifesto, which is to professionalize the public service. And there are different programs. When budget comes around, we have a monitoring and evaluation training that will also be coming on board. You have budget training. So you have different kinds of trainings that we will be implementing and that are already on board. And we've already trained 800 and something persons for 2022. And that's only public servants. So it's from different agencies, different ministries. And the process is that the Ministry of Public Service will speak and communicate and engage another ministry or an agency to find out where they have gaps and how we will be able to work together to fill those gaps. And based on that, programs are designed. And also, we have a number of programs that we send to the ministries, and they can choose from that program, and they will choose also their best suited candidate to train. So that is the process by which we train in the public sector, employees in the public sector. We have also a scholarship department, and the Ministry of Public Service is specifically responsible for the scholarship programs for the public sector. So what we do is we identify the relevant and priority areas in the different sectors, such as agriculture, such as the developing sector, oil and gas, you have engineering, etc. And we will find programs with different universities, University of Guyana being our largest grant, and programs that are relevant to the development of the public sector. And so we also have bilateral relations with different countries such as Cuba, China, Russia, and a few other countries that offers us scholarship programs in different fields of study. And what we do for the most, once we have a sizable number of persons applying, we will pass them through an interview process. So the ministry also has a panel of about 20 persons, and they are qualified persons in different areas. And we will pull from that pool depending on what the field of study is and the program is, and we will have that panel be set up to conduct an interview, and we will choose the best candidates.
Can you say how the panel is appointed? Who appoint them?
Well,
Members of the panel.
we would have engaged different persons in different professions, such as doctors, lawyers. So the ministry itself. So myself, the permanent secretary, the deputy permanent secretary, we would have engaged different persons. You have past lecturers of the University of Guyana. We have economists. We have different persons on the panels.
Would applicants for these scholarships require to submit references as part of the package?
They are if they're employed, they are required to have their employer's signature, and for obvious reasons, because if we're sending you to study, then your employer needs to know that you're not going to be in the ministry or the agency and agree to that. And of course, when we send someone for training, it is to be able to fill that gap that or where we see there's a gap. So for example, in Ministry of Health, if we want somebody to specialize in radiology or oncology or some other specialty, we would want the minister's signature because that person would necessarily have to be out of the ministry. And also, we want to be able to gain from the skill set. So those persons are bonded to the government for a period of time. And I think it's only fair that obviously, if government is going to expend and invest, invest for the specific purpose of you filling that gap, then you come back and you give us your skill set.
I just want to clarify this. I don't know if I got it right. If you're a contract employee, the agency or the ministry can recommend the public service to put you on the fixed establishment, or that power resides within the ministry?
No, well, the ministry can recommend, yes, that you be placed on the fixed establishment. A request is made to the Ministry of Public Service. The Ministry of Public Service then sends that recommendation to the Public Service Commission. But like I said, that commission is autonomous, and that they conduct interviews with persons if it's a new position to be filled. But if the ministry is recommending someone, it goes to the PSC for that person to be placed on the fixed establishment.
Thank you, Mahendra.
Yeah, interesting discussion. And just to follow up on Dr. Starr's point, given that the public service in ministry is, top priority under your watch, how do we incentivize a population where we haven't been more prudent or exposed to technology? How has that challenge been confronted by your ministry? Now, I saw in the Center of Excellence in Information Technology that is computer training, software training. Given the mindset of the public servants, how have you tapped into that resource and make it an attractive sort of area for applicants, for person that is seeking public jobs?
So the CEIT, or the Center of Excellence for Information Technology, does come under the Ministry of Public Service now. It was previously under the Office of the Prime Minister. But that is also geared towards building capacity, especially, well, specifically in the information technology field across the public sector. And it's just as well, it is a mindset, and it's a mindset change, but it's also necessary. And so you have public servants who are grappling with how to use the computer and how to use different formats and and apps on the computer, and for efficiency, obviously. So you do have, you know what, I don't even have to make the package that attractive, because we have persons who are asking and requesting of us to do these trainings. So instead of us having to go out to look for people, now we have people looking for us. So we've been training with the CEIT, and it's mostly in the regions. We have wrapped up for the month of, I think the month of December, we have our final, the first week in December, which is now, we have the final training with the CEIT for the year 2022. Next year, we really want to roll out a more robust training program with CIT, but it's not just geared towards the region and the ministries, but also different communities, because I still think that even though we are the Ministry of Public Service and geared towards building capacity in the public service itself, the communities are also, I find that we can go into communities and help them. So the CIT has also been engaged in that.
Yeah, a quick question, if I may follow up. Given the excitement in technology transformation, and Guyana is in this huge global sort of transformation, does the ministry retain a candidate pool that gets these training, gets these scholarship, and then have a placement service that secures jobs for them in different industries, different ministries? How does that work if an investment is made in these individuals? Then after they get these trainings, certification, how does that work after the person would have acquired, so they can then go on and have job placement? And the reason I'm asking that, Minister, we had the Minister of Tourism on this program, and we spoke about hospitality and the trainings that is needed for the hospitality industry. And many of these persons that perhaps are being employed are employed in private settings. How does the ministry equip persons that want to be a part of the public domain to be marketable in this regard?
Okay, so the Ministry of Public Service again. So while you have other ministries such as tourism and maybe culture, youth, and sports, and some other ministries are doing training in different areas, the Public Service Ministry is responsible for building and producing the human capacity that is necessary in the public sector. So if we train someone and you train in a particular field, say you did business administration or you did public management or you did business and finance, and you come back, we have a period of time. And for the record, I want to state that the obligatory period is set out in the public service rules. And so you are required, if you do a degree, to do 5 years uh, of service, and you will be placed in a ministry or an agency that is relevant to your training. So the obligation is on the public service ministry to place you and give you that employment. That begins your employment with the public sector.
Understood.
Okay, thank you. I want to follow up on this question. Non-gold scholarships. First of all, how many gold scholarships have you awarded so far?
So with the Gold Scholarship, which is a short for abbreviated for Guyana Online Academy of
Yes.
Learning, which is a unit that comes under the Ministry of Education, but it's a collaboration between education and the Ministry of Public Service, because the Ministry of Public Service does the selection and the funding. That that is an initiative that His Excellency would have brought on board in 2021, and it is a manifesto promise that the PPPC made when they were campaigning on the ground. And it is to provide ordinary Guyanese with the opportunity to either earn a skill set or to gain a tertiary education. And now we have on board, if you have not been able to gain a secondary level education, there is a program that can give you an equal qualification so that you can move from there to a tertiary education. And I think that uh, this is such a significant initiative or program, and we have seen an overwhelming response to it. So in 2021, when the Gold Scholarship was rolled out, we initially intended to grant 4,500 scholarships because the target was 20,000 online scholarships by 2025. We intended to give 4,500, but we were able to give ordinary Guyanese and 6,000 ordinary Guyanese the opportunity to either gain a skill set or a tertiary level education through the program. In 2022, that number significantly went up from 6,000 to 7,410. And then we did an oil and gas training as well that added another 70 to that program. So the program has been quite successful, and it's not just to be able to have self development, but to be able to have national development, to be able to reach a wide cross section of our country, because you would have had categories of persons previously being left out, such as the hinterland, the rural areas, and now you have the convenience of doing it from your phone or whatever device you have, and it's online, so it's convenient if you're working, and therefore we could reach different parts of the country that we weren't able to reach or wasn't there before. And it is again to be able to, because we can't transform our country, we can do so infrastructurally and every other thing, but we must carry our people along with us. It's a must. And we, by doing this type of program, and I've checked everywhere, and this is the only program of its kind in our Caribbean region. I had somebody message me from Mauritius, an official, trying to find out how did we roll out this program. It's so significant. It's something that they can use in their territory, and so it's had widespread congratulations.
So the gold scholarship award in 2021 was 6,000, 2022, 7,410. And you
Correct.
mentioned another figure,
Yes, so it would be 4,780.
4,700.
80.
Yeah.
That was awarded in 2022 as well.
Yes. 2022. Yes.
Okay. Now, do you have similar data like non-goal scholarships offered by like governments, Commonwealth scholarship, the Chinese scholarship grant, the India government grants? Do you have any data on those non-goal scholarships
Well, we're
among the
still in the
graduates?
process. So some of the scholarships came a bit late this year, so we are still in the process of tallying the total amount for those. But the University of Guyana just closed off a few weeks ago our scholarship program for that, and we were able to take that number to 350 Guyanese being able to get scholarships. And just to say that I think all of our ministries in all of the programs that we do, we obviously look to equitably distribute our resources. So in the Ministry of Public Service and through our scholarship program, whether it was goal or non-goal scholarships, these were reaching all our 10 administrative regions. So we were looking to have to be make scholarships accessible to all Guyanese. While the public sector scholarship is catering for the public sector and therefore we have to have an age limit, the gold scholarship does not. So you can be 70 years old or 80 years old and decide that you want a degree or in a skill set. As a matter of fact, we had a 70-year-old farmer in Region 1 that did one of the programs in farming and a few more like that in across the regions. So, with all of these scholarships, we don't just look to be handing out scholarships and just to suit the public sector, but we do so in a very strategic way and a way in which all Guyanese can benefit or have access to.
Well, the gold scholarship, we do have the scope of that, and that's good. But the non-gold scholarship, it would be nice if similar type of data so the public can know. I mean, we can say that it's equitable distributed, etc. But if people get some data, that will cause them to believe it. Otherwise, the allegation being made in Guyana about discrimination, etc. in every area.
Yes.
And we know that those things are not correct. The facts do not bear them out. Now, we can say that with gold, we can say that with housing, because we do have some kind of data on ethnic basis. But these non-gold scholarships, it would be nice if your ministry can compile, not
Well,
necessary for public consumption, but you have it available so when any person, especially the opposition, you can always throw it out at them. There's nothing more powerful than facts and the truth to silence falsehood and rumors and propaganda. So, anyhow, that's
well, I absolutely agree with you. And while collecting data or data collection is not based and it's not done in a way where we look at ethnicity, except perhaps if you're dealing with Ministry of Health for the purposes of diseases or the police for the purposes of their criminal investigation and so on. It's never really collected on ethnicity. But since there have been rising allegations and baseless allegations by the opposition of discrimination by our government. And I say baseless because in every single sector that we have, our resources and our programs are distributed equitably. But just to answer your question and go back to your question, we have been compiling our data and looking back at ethnicity. And I can tell you that specifically with the Ministry of Public Service, you would have heard our Prime Minister very recently as well give you statistics. I don't know if you listened or you read what the Prime Minister would have said, but over 50% of those persons who benefited from the housing program were Afro Guyanese. We also, my own statistics in the Ministry of Public Service and specifically to goal, 42.6% of goal scholars in 2021 were Afro Guyanese. For the
42,
six,
Pardon me, for 2% where PSM
42
at
were
PSM.
Afro-Guyanese. Yes. 46% in 2022 are Afro-Guyanese.
Someone
And
told an official at PSM indicate to me that they have around 60% Afro-Guyanese in the office of the president. There was no way
well,
I could have had
again,
it.
we don't compile data, but
Yeah,
different
yeah.
agencies have been
But I
as of
think these
recent,
data are becoming.
and it's for the very reason that you stated, because the facts speak for themselves and the figures speak for themselves.
But
And go ahead.
I think it's very, very important that we get out this data on an ethnic basis. U.S. produce data like the UK as well, and I think we, in view of this barrage of attack, read the papers every day. They talk about discrimination, inequality, etc. Nigel Hines, yeah, they
But
wrote a letter saying that they got twice the poverty level, which is grossly wrong. The African poverty level, based on the 2006 survey, was about 31.1%. The Indo-Guyanese was a little lower, 30%, but the Amerindians, they have a poverty level of 73.5%. And nobody I'm talking about that only the two groups compare, and we also know that poverty, there's greater level of urban of rural poverty compared with urban poverty, etc. And but I mean this
no,
data
but
is so important now,
the
and
data
this
the data that we have is very factual, and the allegations that are made are quite baseless. There is no evidence of discrimination. There is no evidence of racism. And let me just, for example, my ministry has 69.3%, almost 70% Afro-Guyanese.
70%.
That's the employees in the ministry. 69. And that, if you look across the sector, you will see that being replicated.
Yeah.
You will see that being replicated. And, discrimination. And if you will allow me to go on a little bit about this card of racism and discrimination that we keep hearing about, and truth be told, the leader of the opposition and a lot of the members, if not all, are racist. They're anti development, anti progressive. And because government is working so hard to distribute and have and make our policies, programs, and everything that we have to give accessible to all Guyanese, transformation is taking place at a very fast rate. Guyanese are benefiting from jobs, more jobs, as the construction sector is booming, as transformations taking place. Not only in the public sector are there jobs, but jobs are being created. Part-time jobs were given to different regions for persons to be able to add to their income. And this had absolutely no discrimination, no racism. Persons who needed jobs were given jobs. And we, myself, my cabinet colleagues, His Excellency, the Vice President, all of us have been going into all communities across Guyana. Myself, I go into Mocha Arcadia, which is a predominantly Afro-Guyanese community, Belladrum in Region 5, which is a predominantly Afro-Guyanese community. And let me tell you, the residents, they want development. They're looking forward to development from this government. They are welcoming. They are extremely nice people. It is the opposition and authorities like the NDCs and the CDCs, the Community Development Councils, who want to carry and listen to the false narrative that is being peddled by the opposition. They want to so believe that they attack the government, and in doing so, they block development in those very communities. So they're harming the residents of those communities and those communities far more than their words. So, we will continue because we commit to making the lives of every Guyanese better. We're committing and committed to the prosperity of all Guyanese in our country, and that will not stop. That will not stop. So we will continue to go into these communities. We will continue to make available our programs, and we will continue to make development available for these communities all across our country. The
A
statistics
recent
in all of our ministries and agencies can show you that there is no discrimination. And I even want to go back to the Gold Scholarship. This Gold Scholarship is a massive scholarship. It's not the PSM scholarship is not even the non-gold scholarship doesn't compare to the size of that. And that is published in the newspaper along with this different social media platforms
yeah,
when those persons are awarded the scholarship. So
I
it's there for everyone to see.
yeah, I'm aware of that. There's a guy named Aaron Pires, Pires, who did a content analysis, and he found that 39% of the people who were given gold scholarships were Afro-Guyanese, 40% were Indo-Guyanese, and the rest were Amerindians and others. So I see they're not fussing about gold scholarship anymore, and very little fuss about housing because they have the data now thrown at them. But there are other areas where they're complaining, like
And
poverty, marginalization, etc. But let's move on. I just want
we're
to.
not afraid of all of this narrative that is being peddled because we know that our statistics can prove differently. We know that we will continue to be seen on the ground. We will continue to engage residents, and we will continue to listen to the people on the ground so that we can help them develop. Minister Indar just on Wednesday was in Denamstel, which is another predominantly Afro-Guyanese community. And there was a project to redo the community ground. That project was shut down. The gate was locked by the NDC. And obviously, we're starting to see that it's a pattern. We are seeing that these persons clearly don't want us in the community. But you know what is the real news? The real news is the residents want us in the community. The residents no longer want to listen to this racism and discrimination talk that has absolutely, absolutely no basis.
Okay. Before I pass it back to Mahin, I just want you to say if there are any plans in the near future to restructure or to modernize the public service. So right now they have a lot of rules. Why I call them general orders? I don't have to change the name. It's archaic. They were inherited since the colonial people were there. So we need to modernize, to digitize our records. And I mean, you talk about training already. But another thing I did on the first anniversary of the PPP, I communicated with many ministers, asked them to give me a report so I can do a report of the progress. And every ministry did provide the data and the pictures, but the reports are all differently structured, not in a standard format, not in a professional way. Now, we have very good links with the US, and these guys are using whatever flaws, send this thing up to Congress Place, who they got, the Brooklyn set up. And that is what worries us most, is that we know the data is lie, is incomplete, is falsehood, but these guys in Congress do not regard the data as false. They regard it as genuine, the way how these people present it. So that is a huge challenge. And that's why I've been saying that the only thing they will listen. I spoke to Ambassador Sam Hines, and he was saying he agreed that we should pursue this. And I hope that the president and vice president, even if we got to dedicate people to work on these things, is very, very, because it will come back to what all the great work that the government is doing. You'll find not one of them will mention a good thing that this government has done, not one of them. And that message is penetrating to. I've been doing some monitoring of Facebook from their supporters. Everyone, 99.9% is negative towards the government. So, in as much as we say we are doing a good job, or we know our government is doing a good job, the message out there, especially in the diaspora, is not good. And that's
Well,
why, Origin, anyhow, please address what plans are got to modernize the public service.
Well, first of all, we did a draft of the public service rules. From the public service rules is 1987. The Attorney General Chambers and myself would have done a draft of the an updated rules, and we would have based it on what we need in Guyana, but also on modern rules in the rest of the Caribbean. We looked at Belize and so on. That rule that has not come to pass as yet because we have to do a consultation. We have to be able to consult with the various stakeholders, etc. So that is on the cards. We are also looking at, from central government, we are looking at an e-governance uh, format that will grow across the agencies and the ministry, so that we have a very unified way of dealing with documentation and the processing of information, the transmitting of information, and of course in a very structured way, so that we can all be on the same page. So that will necessarily be a software, but obviously that will come from uh, perhaps from the level of the office of the president, and then we will work on the rest of the ministries and implementing those and installing those in the rest of the ministries, so that we can have that unity and unified way of transmitting information. We want to go paperless as it relates to some processes. We have different agencies that are their legislations are being updated, such as housing, and you want to have the single window um, units and so on. So those are different things that we're implementing. The Guyana Revenue Authority, I believe, is doing some work as well in terms of modernizing and technology, using technology to be more efficient and to cut, of course, the waiting time for persons and the delay in the processing of documents from one agency to the next. So all of those things are coming on board, and those are things that the public service can look forward to in the upcoming years. So
Thank you very much.
we have been looking at that. But I don't like to leave the issue of discrimination down, and the fact that the opposition is continuously writing and writing and writing. But I want to say that this very opposition that continues to write, and those few voices that are in support of them, you don't hear them coming out when their community is being blocked from development. You don't hear them saying anything in support of their residents being able to access that development. They don't come out and say that the authorities, such as the NDC and their colleague members, are harming the community. But it's understandable because their modus operandi has always been to deflect. They have not ever followed the rule of law. I mean, for God's sakes, they try to commit the most heinous crime on this country I can think of, the worst violation, which is to collapse or put our democracy at an almost collapse. They try to subvert the will of the people, which is the worst thing that you can do. And if the opposition think that people will forget that, they will never forget that. And so all of this writing and all of these baseless accusations and allegations of racism and discrimination, they want to deflect from their actions and the horrible things and the traumatic times that they've put this country through, the people of this country. And
Mm,
it's not even only this country, because during the 5 months, we had persons from the diaspora
mm,
calling us. that they couldn't sleep, they can't eat, they don't know what's going to happen with the country.
All right. Thank you, Minister. Mahendra, your final question to the Minister.
Yeah,
Then
more of a comment, Dr. Tara, and I think it can go on unaddressed. And I think the minister spoke very eloquently about the baseless allegation of racism. But I know the need for data and ensuring that that is communicated further afield from Guyana. But I don't think no level of data will change the heckling or the noise from the opposition, because I think the only thread of their politics remaining is the narrative they spin about racism. And that's all they have resorted to in this present day of politics. They have nothing else. They don't have any policies. They had an opportunity to have implemented policies that failed miserably. And look about when we talk about data, they try to manipulate the main source of data, that is the data of the will of the people
That's
voted against them. And I understand Dr. Tara's position on data as how we perceive it in the US and foreign countries, because that is where we go to test statistics and look. And Minister, I think that is an area the government should definitely invest in, as to how they bring data on a regular basis to ensure that they don't have to always defend this narrative, because we know the narrative is false of racism. We know the fact stands on its own footing, but it's important that we look at mechanisms and ways to ensure that what the government has achieved and what the government has done and is doing is clearly communicated. We have a group here in the US that all they do is spin this narrative that has no foundation. So
you're
Dr.
you're you're
Dr.
very right, Mahendra. And the thing is,
something. Yeah.
from 2015 to 2020, I mean, half of the time they were squatting in
just
government
ask a
because they
question.
refused to adhere to the rule of law. So you were looking down a dictatorship. But even before then, you want to attack this government without any evidence that it has fired persons, etc., of African descent. That is not so, one. And two, you would have fired 7,000 sugar workers. This is after promising them that they will get an increase in their salary. Instead, you went right back, not only to not grant that increase and not keep that promise, but we know they're not good at keeping their promises at all. But to put those persons on the breadline, 7,000 sugar workers, 2,000 Amerindian CSOs.
Well,
Oh,
even
they
so,
don't want, they wouldn't write about that. They
yeah,
wouldn't tell people
In
about it.
Linden, they put their own folks, their own constituents on their breadline by closing the call center.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. I pass you on to our host. She's going to ask you a few questions from the viewers.
Thank you, Minister Parag. Like Mahendra said, you spoke eloquently, very transparent, and thank you so much. We'll take the first question from Kev Samaru. He says, can you provide the ethnic breakdown in the employment in the public service in regards to Army, police, fire service, people's militia, prison service?
Well, I can't give you the breakdown of all of those agencies at the moment because, first of all, the Guyana Defense Force is it's outside of the public service inventory, so we would have to get that information from that agency. Like I said, we don't really collect data that way and in that manner. So that's why I gave you the statistics of my ministry that I know of. And as well, if you look across the sector, I mean, I don't think anybody here in Guyana can tell you that the public sector, which includes the disciplinary forces, is reflective of what my ministry is.
Perfect. This question is from Azim Ali. He says, does your department has access for someone who works from a wheelchair but has IT qualifications?
Yes. So that is another thing, a promise that we have had in our manifesto. And by the way, we have completed more than 90% of our manifesto promises, and we're only in year 2.5. And we would have made commitments to the disability community, and my ministry as well as the other ministries have been collaborating with persons with disabilities to be able to have them access not only government services but jobs in our government. So for example, my training division has installed a ramp so that we can make it wheelchair friendly and disability friendly to have those persons be trained. I have also collaborated with the Disability Council to put up candidates to be given scholarships, and they will be treated as normal persons in terms of the being employed after they would have completed their scholarship. So
Thank
there are
you.
different things, and of course, we have the Ministry of Human Services that is taking care of so many programs that are geared towards access, giving equitable resources to persons with disabilities.
Thank you. This question is from Rabindra Prasad, and he says, "What type of incentive your government have in place so it could make it attractive for learning?" I think Mahindra kind of asked that question, but he was asking in terms of when they're already qualified. So I'm not sure if it's the same questions, but this one is attractive for learning.
So attractive for learning, but in the sense of what? Giving a scholarship to fill a gap in the public sector or upskilling? Because if it's upskilling, our package is basically we tweak our programs as we go along to make the package more attractive so that we can be able to not only have the candidates but keep their attention and be able to have them learn and become competent in them moving up. But I'm not sure what package the person is talking about
Mm.
I think it was more
other than
generalist
the
for them
actual
to
training
learn.
itself.
Perfect. Now,
Maybe some kind of stipend or something of that nature, maybe.
right.
Well, the University of Guyana and students who we do have studying, they do get a stipend. And if you're not placed right away, you get a graduate stipend as well. So,
He did follow up and he said
Mm.
upskilling. So
Yeah.
so,
The
up,
upskills.
so
contingency.
upskilling will obviously put you in a position where later on you can have a promotion, which obviously will be able to give you a better salary or an increase in your salary. But of course, that's not automatic and it's not immediate, but it's obviously to make you more efficient and competent in your job.
Mhm.
Perfect. Thank you. We will now take the time to, if you can give us your closing remarks.
So I want to thank you for having me on your show. I want to thank the viewers for listening to me. And I just want to, all of our Guyanese brothers and sisters, I mean, we are here to make your lives better. We are here to serve you. His Excellency works around the clock. Our cabinet works around the clock. And it is a service to you, it's not a favor. And we want to be able to better your lives. So we are committed to prosperity. No person will be discriminated against. We do not intend to have the opposition hinder us in any way in developing Guyana. We engage with the people directly so we understand what is needed and so that we can help, and we will continue down that path for the rest of the years that we're here.
Perfectly said. Thank you very much. Uh, it's a
Actually, if you can
pleasure.
hold on,
Go
if you
ahead.
can hold on a couple of minutes after.
Yes, we already spoke, Para. Thank you to our panel tonight. Thank you to our moderator, and thank
Thank
you
you.
to our honorable minister. To all our viewers, thank you so much for taking the time for being here this evening. It was an honor and pleasure being here. Until next time, this is the Guyana Dialogue. Have a pleasant evening, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.